What's the story, Morning Glory? What's the word, Hummingbird? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for this review of 90 Day Fiancé Season 9, Episode 5, Breast Intentions. So we start off with Emily and Kobe. So let me set up the scene for y'all. So we are in the living room of Emily's parents' house, and in the living room we have Emily and Kobe, and Emily's parents are in the kitchen preparing dinner. So Emily takes her breast pumping equipment out and she starts pumping. So Kobe is very uncomfortable with this, especially because it's in front of her parents. He wants her to do it in private. In his confessional, Kobe says that in Africa, women would be more discreet. And I'm like, Kobe, you're in the United States of America, the good old US of A. And there's the breastfeeding police, and they're out there in full force and effect. You do not tell a woman when to breastfeed, when to pump. You don't tell a woman to cover up. You don't tell a woman to go somewhere in private, because that's going to be like you're trying to make her feel ashamed or shameful for feeding her child. So just stay out of it, Kobe. Just stay completely out of it. Don't tell her what to do with the breastfeeding and the breast pumping situation. Just stay out of it. Don't say anything, because it's going to like you are trying to take away her rights with what she can do with her body and what she can do with her breasts and what she could do with the feeding of her child. So yeah, just let it be. So the dad walks into the living room, I guess, because he hears them arguing. He walks into the living room and he says he didn't want to get involved, but he ended up taking Emily's side. And so I don't understand why he said he didn't want to get involved. Kobe also had an issue with how long Emily has been breastfeeding. He says that his sister back in Africa stopped breastfeeding her child at 7 months old. Coben is 17 months. Emily's dad sided with Emily and said that the longer the better, the longer the child breastfeeds, the better. So Kobe is, he's up against how many people? Emily, her parents, that's 3, maybe the sister 2, that's 4. So it's going to be 4 against 1 in that house. And I just don't know how Kobe's going to be able to handle this, because it's very clear that Emily is spoiled, that she is the apple of her daddy's eye. And by the way, Emily and her dad look a lot alike. They look so much alike. So I don't know what Kobe's going to do. You just kind of have to go with the flow, Kobe, if you want to stay in that house. The bottom line is Kobe doesn't want to have to share, that part of Emily's body with his son. He thinks it's really strange. Emily tells him to go help his mother cook. Kobe says, you're trying to be controlling and it's really hurtful, because she just told him, go in the kitchen and help my mom cook. So he wants her to use, like a different tone. So the father tells Kobe that it will be a good idea if he starts bonding with his mother-in-law. Once again, the father takes Emily's side. Kobe tells her that she needs to change her tone. And so she goes, oh, so would it have been better for me to say, Kobe, my love, can you please go help my mother cook? And he's like, yeah, it's not exactly what you say, but how you say it. So yeah, that's all you had to do, was just say it in a better tone. So it seems like there's going to be some kind of a power struggle between these two people, because him being from Cameroon and the culture that he's a part of, the men are the ones that are, the more dominant ones. They're the ones that are more in charge of the relationship or in charge of the household. And Emily is very, very spoiled. And it seems like, her parents let her run the house. She does whatever she wants, says whatever she wants, and that's just how it's going to be. Because I realize that whenever the father talks about Kobe getting a job and taking care of Emily and the son, he doesn't really put a lot of emphasis, or he doesn't put a lot of pressure on Emily getting a job and Emily, taking care of her child. It's always what Kobe needs to do. So the grandmother comes over for dinner. As they're sitting down for dinner, Kobe gives more of his background. He talks about how he was raised by his mother. His parents were not married. His father actually was already married to someone else. So it seems like Kobe was a love child, or a child that was conceived out of an extramarital affair. He really didn't have a lot to do with his father until he was 14 years old, when he met his father for the first time. So for Kobe, it's very important for him to be involved in Coben's life, because he wants to set a better example for his son than he had growing up from his own father. So the mother asked Kobe, how did he propose? So Kobe tells the story of how he had proposed to Emily, and Emily mentioned that he had proposed with a fake diamond ring. And Emily says that now, she wants a real diamond ring. And they say that Emily's the boss. She's the boss of the house. I don't know if they were joking because the grandmother said something about how we all do what Emily says. Emily's the one that controls the house. I don't know if the grandmother was joking about that or if there was some element of truth in that, but it kind of seems like Emily is the one that calls the shots in that house. So then Kobe says, no, I'm the overall boss. And so in Kobe's culture, the man is the one, like I said before, the man is the one that, is the boss of the home, so on and so forth. They talk about Kobe's plans as far as, getting a job and working. Kobe says that, time will tell because right now he really doesn't know what he would like to do. So the dad is very concerned because it seems like Kobe doesn't have a plan. So in his confessional when in his confessional or whatever, the dad, talks about how, he really wants Kobe to be able to take care of Emily. And the dad got really emotional when he was talking about, his little girl, I don't know, being with this man. I don't understand. Look, to me, Emily seems like a wild child. She does seem really spoiled. Like when she picked up Kobe from the airport and just was like, yeah, we're not going to go see your son right away. We're going to go to a hotel so we can, do what we need to do. Cause I need to know if we still have that chemistry together. Like she just took it completely upon herself to make plans for him, not taking into consideration what he might want to do, what he might not want to do. She's the one that called all the shots. She's the one that ran the show. So I feel like, Kobe's going to have to just fall in line like everybody else and let Emily lead the way and let Emily be the one to make the decisions for him because he's going to have no decision-making power in this relationship, it seems like. So when it comes time for their nighttime routine, she wants to show him how they wind down for the night and how she gets Kobe into bed. So the baby sleeps with her and he nurses until he falls asleep. So all three of them are in this little bed and he says in his confessional that, I had told Emily before I came to America that if the bed was too small, that she should have gotten a bigger bed. But anyway, so they're in this small bed and they're trying to wind down. They're trying to get the baby to go to sleep, but the baby's a little bit hyper, he still wants to play and, run around and stuff. And so Emily blames it on Kobe and she says, well, it's because you're in the bed with us. This is the reason why he won't go to sleep because this is different for him. This is not part of his normal routine. So he's having a hard time laying down. So you're going to have to go sleep in the other room. And Kobe was a little bit, upset about this because he wanted to sleep with his son and Emily, his first son in America. So Emily basically kicked him out of bed and she was like, the only way for him to fall asleep is if you're not here. So you're going to have to go. So he had to get up and leave and go into the other room. All I can say is, Kobe, you're just going to have to step in line. You're just going to have to get in line and do what she says. I don't see it working any other way because not only is she bossy and controlling, but she also has her parents on her side as well. And I noticed it that very first day when he arrived and he was crying uncontrollably about seeing his son for the first time, overseeing his son for the first time. And her parents were just standing there looking at him like this was some kind of strange event that they've never seen before. They were just staring at him. They didn't offer any words of comfort. They didn't try to do anything. They were just standing there looking at him. And so right then and there, I felt like they were treating him like an outsider. And I think that they're still trying to treat him like an outsider. I don't see her parents being warm or welcoming in any kind of way with Kobe. And Emily herself is also not that welcoming. She barks orders at him. She controls how he interacts with his own son. She's very, very controlling over everything that has to do with her child. So yeah, good luck with that, Kobe. Good luck. Moving on to Eve and Muhammad. So it's the next morning. And of course, Eve has to give us the rundown of how things went down the night before. Whatever the hell they did in their room. Why do people feel the need to talk about what they did in bed. Why? We're all adults. We get it. Y'all did what y'all did. Y'all did the damn thing. We understand. You don't have to give us a rundown of what happened. You don't even have to mention it at all. It's basically like it's assumed that y'all are adults. Y'all were apart for a very long time. Y'all were able to spend the night together alone. So it's kind of like assumed that y'all did what grown people do when they are alone in bed. So, please spare us the details. So Muhammad has never lived with a woman other than his mom. And it's very, very obvious, and it's very, very telling. So he was expecting Eve to serve him breakfast in bed. So when she got up and she got ready for work, she basically, she had bought a bidet. She basically threw the box at him and told him, okay, go ahead and fix this. Hook up the bidet when you get a chance. Takes them into the kitchen, shows them where the eggs are, shows them where the frying pan is. And she's like, okay, have a good day. I got to go to work. And he's like, oh, I thought you were going to make breakfast for me. And she's like, I got to go to work. Someone has to make money around here. But Eve, sweetheart, my love, remember, he's your king. You keep calling him your king. So kings are catered to. And people wait on them hand and foot. That's your king. Okay? Don't forget that. So she's off to work, and Muhammad tells her, before she left, Muhammad tells her that she shouldn't get used to it. In other words, she shouldn't get used to not making him breakfast in the morning. And she just brushed it off. Don't brush it off. Take notes. Listen very carefully, because he's telling you exactly how he expects to be treated by you. He told you, Eve, that you should not, don't just get, this is his exact words, and I quote, don't just get used to do that. In other words, don't get used to leaving this house without catering to me first. So Muhammad says, this is my first day in America and I already miss my mommy. Muhammad's unable to install the bidet. So he leaves that to the side. I don't know what they're going to do with that. Hopefully she has the receipt to return it. Eve brings her son home to meet Muhammad. So Muhammad and Theron meet. Theron thinks it's so cool. He really likes Muhammad. He knows who he is because they were FaceTiming each other quite a bit. And Muhammad brought gifts for Theron. And I'm thinking to myself, look at that. He had the mindset to buy a gift for Theron. And I'm thinking to myself, why didn't Kobe do that for his son Coben? Because he came there empty-handed. He had no toy, no rattle, no stuffed animal, no nothing for his own son. But your boy Muhammad brought something for Theron. So they're having dinner. And while they're having dinner, Eve asks Muhammad if it's okay for him to watch Theron in the afternoons. And I'm thinking to myself, girl, you don't even know who this man is. You don't know enough about him. And already you want him to watch your son? Already you want this strange man to watch your son alone? Girl, please. So Muhammad says in his confessional that he feels more like a babysitter than he does a fiance. And he doesn't want to do female duties. I'm not even going to get on him for that because it's a cultural thing. Things are different in Egypt than they are here. So I can't even blame him for him thinking that way, that, dealing with children is a woman's duty or whatever. But this is something that Eve needs to be very concerned about. This is something that Eve needs to think twice about. Eve was talking about how getting, affordable daycare has been really hard for her. So, not only does she want him to watch her son in the afternoons, but there's going to be times when he has to watch her son the whole entire day. Eve, that's a you problem. That's not a Muhammad problem. That's a you problem. You need to find adequate care for your child, a daycare, whatever you have to do. You cannot bring your fiance here to America and be like, okay, you're going to be watching my son all day while I go to work all day. That's not how it's going to work. That's not a Muhammad problem. That's a you problem. Because just simply based on this, you don't know him well enough to know how he's going to interact with your child. That's all I'm saying. Y'all haven't spent enough time together. Now, as time goes on and you get to know him better and you get to see how your son and Muhammad interact with each other, then you can say, okay, you know what? It'll be more cost effective for you to watch him than for me to spend all this money on childcare. Then you can have that conversation once you know him a little bit better and you see how how he interacts with your child. But his first, second day there in America, okay, you're going to be watching him in the afternoons. No, no, ma'am. Moving on to Shahid and Bilal. So Shahid is enjoying the house. She keeps, because every time we see Shahid now, the first thing she mentions, not Shahid, Shaida, the first thing that she mentions is this house. She doesn't even talk about Bilal. The first thing out of her mouth is, oh, now I'm in this beautiful home. So she's enjoying the home a lot more than she's enjoying Bilal. And now she's going to be able to meet his two kids. So the kids come over and they're standing in the kitchen and it's kind of awkward, you know. For someone who says that she really loves children and wants to have her own children, she really didn't exhibit that with her fiance's kids. She just kind of, I mean, they were standing very far apart in the kitchen. She was like on one end of the kitchen, they were on the other end of the kitchen. And it was just, I just didn't see this maternal side of her, you know, when it came to dealing with his kids. And even though she doesn't know them, they don't know her, I felt like she could have had more to say. Like, so how was school? And what do y'all want to be when y'all grow up? And what's your favorite thing to do? But it was none of that. It was just awkward silence. So then the kids offer to play games. They want to go into the basement and play games with her. She has the audacity to say, no, I don't play games. Girl, you better get your butt down into that basement and go play Connect Four, Monopoly, Twister, something. You need to bond with these kids. You say you love children. Why aren't you showing it? You need to bond with the kids. Look, you don't like playing games, but you're going to have to fake it. You're going to have to do what you have. That's how it is with kids. Kids are going to make you do things that you really don't want to do, but you have to do them to appease them. These are your stepchildren. They're going to be your stepkids. There's going to be a lot of stuff that you don't want to do that you're just going to have to do. You're just going to have to suck it up and do it. Suck it up, Buttercup, in the words of Captain Lee. So the kids are not going to take no for an answer. They're like, no, you're going to come downstairs. You're going to play with us. So they go downstairs and the game of choice is pool. So Bilal tries to teach her how to play pool or whatever. So then Shaida, the kids ask her, what do you want us? No, Shaida asked the kids, what do you call your mom's husband? And the kids say, we call him by his name. And so they ask her, what do you want us to call you? And she said, you can call me Umi. And Umi means mom. And so the kids were not really comfortable with that. So in their own little confessional, the kids were like, yeah, we're not going to call her mom. We're going to call her Shaida or whatever. That's not going to happen. So then the kids ask her, do you want children? And she says yes. And the kids ask her, well, when do you want to have kids? And then she tells them, well, that's something that you're going to have to ask your dad. And Bilal basically was like, you know, only Allah can decide. Well, have you consulted with him lately? Has he given you a date, a time frame, an estimate, an ETA, something? Shaida FaceTimes her sister, what does she call her? Judai. She FaceTimes her sister Judai, and she tells her sister that Bilal keeps on avoiding the whole baby conversation. Every time it's brought up, you know, he gives these vague answers, or he jokes around about it, or, you know, he just beats around the bush. So Shaida says that Bilal has completely flipped on the kid issue, because she says when he went to Trinidad to see her, he was all about having kids with her. He wanted to have 2 more children. And now he doesn't even want to talk about having kids. And so she starts crying because, you know, everybody around her, you know, they have their families, they have their children, they're established. And, you know, she wants the same thing. She wants her own children. And she says that if he is not willing to have kids with her, you know, she's not going to be with him. She's going to go back to Trinidad. She's not going to be with him. You need to have this conversation very, very soon. Shaida, you need to get it. I don't know what she needs to do. Maybe she just needs to start packing her bags and says, you know what, I think I'm going to go back to Trinidad, because every time I try to talk to you about having kids, you don't want to give me a straight answer. And if you don't want to have children, that's perfectly fine. I do. So we're not compatible. So when can you book me a trip back to Trinidad? Just tell him you're leaving. Just start packing your bags and act like you're leaving or something to get a straight answer out of him, because it's just not right that he gets away with not giving you a straight answer on something so crucial and so important and so time sensitive. Moving on to Benny and Ari. Not much going on here. They've arrived in New York City. No, they've arrived in New York City. Then they drive to New Jersey. When they get to New Jersey, they're tired. Anyways, so Ari's mom has rented them an apartment, a 2-bedroom apartment, which is right next to their place, her parents' place. So the apartment is really nice. It's 2 bedrooms. It's very spacious. She's got the cable hooked up. She's got the Wi-Fi hooked up. Got everything set for them to be comfortable. So then the mom runs down the financials. She says, I've already taken care of the deposit, the security, first month's rent. So I just need to know when y'all are going to be able to take over the rent. And Ari tells her mom, she's like, okay, I think it's kind of unfair that you decided upon yourself to get us a very expensive apartment, knowing that at some point we're going to be having to take over the rent, but you get the most expensive apartment that you could find, a 2 bedroom apartment, which you really didn't need, and you hook it up with all this stuff, with the Wi-Fi and all of this and that, and then you tell me that, so you're going to have to, when are you going to be able to take over? And you know that I'm not working, and you know that Benny can't work for at least 90 days. So yeah, what's up with that? Wow. That is just hilarious to me. That's just it's crazy. Anyways, moving on to Patrick and Thais. So, before Thais left Brazil to go to America, she meets with her mom. No, she meets with her grandmother and her father. So her dad is very overprotective, and her dad doesn't care for Patrick or Americans at all. He thinks that American men are just trying to use Brazilian women. So she doesn't tell her dad that she's leaving to go marry Patrick in America. She tells her dad that she's just going to be traveling because her dad is super, super overprotective. And in his own little confessional, he was talking about how it's breaking his heart for his daughter to leave. And remember, he thinks that she's just going on vacation and that she's going to be coming back. So he's like, it really breaks his heart that his daughter's going to be leaving and he doesn't know when she's coming back. And he started crying, like real tears, crying, like really having a breakdown because his daughter's leaving. And so I don't know what this man's going to do when he finds out that she's not coming back and that she's going to be marrying an American. And she's going to be marrying Patrick, someone he doesn't even like. So she finally arrives to the United States, and her whole issue is his brother John. Like, she doesn't want John there at all. And she tells him that I have no problem going back to Brazil if your brother's going to stay with us, if he's not going to move out. And so another thing about Thais is that she tells Patrick that her father really likes him. Her father thinks that he's really, really cool. So she hasn't told Patrick that her father has no clue that she's moved to America and she's going to be marrying Patrick. So she's lying to both of these men, and they both have a false impression of the other. And I'm thinking to myself, Thais, you are one manipulative little girl. So manipulative, like, and dishonest as hell. This is going to be interesting. This is going to be really interesting to see how this works out. Moving on to Guillermo and Kara. So Kara introduces Guillermo to her family, her uncle, her brother, I think, and her mom. Not much going on here other than the usual. Her family wants to make sure that they're together for the right reasons. Her uncle wants to see Guillermo working. The mother wants to see Guillermo working. And it's like, can y'all let these people get acclimated first? First of all, they can't work for 90 days. So to even talk about work and jobs and careers is so pointless. They can't do anything about that for 3 months. So, and if they work or if they don't work or whatever, that's the Americans' problem, not y'all's. It's not y'all's problem. That's their spouse's issue. If they want to be married to somebody who doesn't want to work or whatever the hell, don't worry about that. I mean, it really gets on my nerves. The guy just arrived. So what do you plan on doing for work? He just got here. He doesn't even know what the hell is available for him. That's the end of that. Kara and Guillermo. That is my review of 90 Day Fiancé. I'm just concerned about your boy Kobe. Yeah. Thank you for joining me in this review. If you made it this far, I really do appreciate it. Don't forget to rate the video on your way out. If you like this content, please subscribe. If you don't worry about it. Thank you for stopping by anyway, and I will definitely talk to you later. Bye.